Good afternoon. Washoe County Library System welcomes you to our monthly series from the Nevada Historical Society presents High Noon with Neil Cobb. This afternoon's topic is the Reno You Know, Local History Comes to YouTube, presented by Steve Ellison. My name is Jennifer, and I'm happy to be with you here today. And now I would like to introduce Sherry Hayes-Zorn with the Nevada Historical Society. Again, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, John, and thank you everybody for attending today's High Noon program. We're so thankful that we work with such a great partner, Washoe County Libraries, to help get us our High Noon series out to a wider audience, and also being able to have people watch these episodes at any time, maybe at 2 a.m. if you're having a bad night sleeping. So it's great. It really allows us to share a wide variety of history to a bigger audience, and we so appreciate it. Well, my name is Sherry, and I'm the curator of history here, and we're so happy to have you here today. And I'm going to introduce our host, Neil Cobb, who is our honorary curator, and he's been such a longtime supporter here for the Nevada Historical Society since back in 1988. So when he goes out into the community, he's always helping tell great stories, sharing photos, and really helps get the word out about us. And this year, the Nevada Historical Society will be celebrating our 120th birthday. So we're Nevada's oldest museum here in the state. And so I hope you will keep tuned and check our website, and we'll be having some great programs and lectures this year in honor of our 120th. So without further ado, let me introduce Neil Cobb. Hey, Neil.
How you doing? And thanks for the intro. Hey, it's my pleasure to introduce Steve Ellison. He is a 37-year resident of the biggest little city and has been endlessly fascinated with historical aspects that make this little corner of the world unique. He is a graduate of the University of Nevada, the University of California. He just loves Nevada, though. He is a PPA master photographer, and he had, they were a recipient, he and his wife, Cynthia, in 2006 from the Reno Historical Resources Commission, and a plaque honoring the house that he had adaptively renovated for his photographic business. He went together in 2015. He talked to a gentleman by the name of Dwayne Kling. Dwayne got a hold of me and says, "Hey, I've got this guy that's got my book, and he wants to talk to us about Herold's Club." Well, that led to a whole bunch of things. Not only is it a beautiful documentary, but he was able to go ahead and follow just a little lead that I gave him, where we found some stuff that we got from Terry Oliver that was over in the Fitzgerald's building. It was now what the Whitney Peak or whatever. But he went ahead and he followed that, and he went over and he talked to the manager and said, no, boy, there's nothing left of a Herold's Club here." He called Steve back and he says, "Hey, you'll never believe what he found." Well, what he found, and is now up at the Historical Society, that Steve was able to get a hold of and lug up there himself, all of the original illustrations done for the Herold's Club Pioneer books by Paul Nyland. And he also found the scrapbooks of the gentleman that did all of the signs, 2,300 of them, all of the details, who the lease payments went to and everything. And this is wonderful, wonderful history that Steve is responsible for. He is a go-getter and a half, and he loves the area. And it's my pleasure right now to welcome Steve.
Hey, thanks, Neil. My name is Steve, of course, and I'm a 59-year-old YouTuber. How did that happen? Isn't YouTube a place for 20-somethings to share cute cat videos? well, that's kind of what I thought several years ago. And but I did some research. I started watching some things, and I thought, hey, maybe with all the things I've been studying over the years historically, maybe I can share some of this information, and maybe this would be a good platform. So I just dived in last March and named it the Reno You Know, obviously. And I delve into various historic subjects. And with this presentation, I'm just going to buzz you through a lot of information, a lot of cool stuff you're going to see. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So I'll kind of break down some of the episodes that I've done, and I'll talk about at least one of the new ones that's coming up here shortly. One of the things that got me into historical subjects was the Overland Immigrant Trail. As it came through Nevada, and I took a tour here in the year 2000. This is up in the Black Rock Desert, and then we went up through High Rock Canyon, just following the old Immigrant Trail. And I started reading the diaries of these brave people, strong people that walked from Missouri to California and Oregon, and some of them were very descriptive as to their route and what they saw. And I said, I'll be darned, you can read these diaries and find the places that they described and see the road that they saw. That just really spoke to me. This is up in High Rock Canyon, just way past the Black Rock Desert. And immigrant graffiti, there is good graffiti. I'm usually not a fan of graffiti, but if it's 170 years old by these folks, then I'll give it a pass. This is also up in High Rock Canyon. This is immigrants passing through and wrote their name in axle grease. I just thought this kind of stuff was so fascinating. And on a mountain wall, they dug their name, name and date. They passed in 1849. I just love this kind of stuff. And this is in the Carson Canyon above Woodford's, between Woodford's and Hope Valley. And here's Mr. Rogers on August 28th, 1849. He left his mark in axle grease, and it's still there. And I did a whole episode on that canyon called, well, we examined all the artifacts in the Carson Canyon. So you can log in and check that out on YouTube. If you haven't hung out on YouTube, it's free. You can go to my channel, just search for the Reno You Know, and click subscribe. And that way, when I put up new content, a little button turns on, and then you can go see the next episode when I upload it. You don't get any annoying emails or anything like that. So that's my commercial. Also, I'm a big fan of railroad history, and this is actually over in California. This is called the Bloomer Cut near Auburn. This is all dug out by hand by the Chinese and the Irish, all those railroad workers. This was the eighth wonder of the world when it was done back in 1867 or 1868. Crazy. And so I had to hike through the brush and find that place, and that really spoke to me as well. And then one day years ago, I felt the need to photograph all of these historic buildings and take out all the power lines and the telephone poles and people walking by, and just kind of restored them all. And I actually gave a presentation on this years ago to the Historic Reno Preservation Society, and I think this was the first time I met Neil Cobb. So I think that's where we met Neil. And then ancient history, I love that kind of stuff too. This is Lagomarsino Canyon. Some of you might have been there. You need a 4-wheel drive to get out there. There's no signs, but all of these petroglyphs are really well preserved. And then several years ago, I saw someone in Auburn that had taken historical photos and the modern scene and combined the two. So I thought, hey, let me make some of these mashups here of Reno. So this is an old photograph with the streetcar, and I went to the same location that the original photographer went to, and took the same scene today, and then combined them in Photoshop. I did several of these. It's not beautiful, but that's what that's the exact location. This is the crossing of the Virginia and Truckee Railroad across the Truckee River. The abutments of the bridge are still there. They're really clear to see. It's right behind the National Automobile Museum, this location. And there used to be the Virginia and Truckee Reno Yard. Was also right behind the National Automobile Museum, and there was a big old turntable there at one time. And way in the back, I don't have a pointer here, but I don't know if you can see my pointer, but right here, this is the seam of the old and the new photograph, and this is the same house. Pretty cool. Here we go. Moving on. Here's the old Palace Club that is certainly no longer there, but I took this from the same angle with the you can see the Whitney Peak Hotel in the background. And here's the Herold's Club documentary that that Neil mentioned. I went to Neil and Dwayne Kling and Roy Powers in 2012, and I said I want to make a documentary based on Dwayne Kling's book about the history of Herold's Club. And I think Roy Powers said, "Have you ever made a documentary?" And I said, "No," but I'm going to figure out how to do it. And so it took me 3 years doing interviews and researching and figuring out how to make a DVD, and it worked. So if you're interested in getting a copy of that, it's on eBay. You just search for the Herold's Club movie, and occasionally on some of my YouTube videos, I'll put a link in there as well. All right, so this is what my YouTube page looks like. And there's just thumbnails of each video, and then you see my shining face up there, and there's a little subscribe button. You won't see it on my screen because it's my channel, but there's a little subscribe button that you can click and check it out. And YouTube gives me content, so I can see the volume of people that come in and watch and subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. It's a really slick system. I actually started on YouTube about 10 years ago with this video. This is way before the Reno You Know channel. This was on my personal channel, and yeah, I think I made this about 10 or 12 years ago, and I uploaded it and I kind of forgot about it. And then a couple years later, I found it and it had 9,000 views just organically, and I hadn't promoted it. I had forgotten about it. So this is one of the reasons I thought, hey, maybe if I do more videos like this, it might gain some traction. And this is a really fun video. Ghost pools. Many old motels in Reno had, of course, pools as an amenity for their guests, and a lot of them just were at the time that I did this video. They were still there. A lot of these have since been demolished and such, along with the motels. But you can see how the owners repurposed these old pools. A lot of them are planters. This is one of the scenes that no longer exists. The Jacobs people purchased up a lot of these motels and tore them down and did away with these old pools. But a lot of these old pools are still there at this time, and they're filled in, for safety purposes. I guess they're expensive to maintain and operate. This motel just put a building right on top of the old pool. So I made a video about all this. So this was the first the Reno You Know video that I did. I just dove right into it, and for this thumbnail, I just needed a paint can, so I went out to the garage. I got a paint can and a brush and photoshopped in the dripping paint. And this was about the red line that surrounded. Well, it's an imaginary red line that the city had put around the block or blocks of areas that gaming was going to be permitted, and gaming was not permitted outside of that red line unless you had 100 hotel rooms. And you can watch that episode for the full story. But this is me doing my very first episode. There's actually snow on me. It was snowing and windy that day, but I was committed to doing this on location. There are a lot of channels that I looked at before I launched this channel. They were just kind of talking heads, and they just talked, in front of a wall about whatever they were speaking about. I wanted to be on location and show people the history. This was a fun one. Elvis Presley in Northern Nevada. I'm a big, huge Elvis fan. I have been as long as I can remember. And Elvis had a very big presence in Nevada and also in northern Nevada. So we took the RV up last March while we had the winter from hell, and there was still a bunch of snow up there. And so we went to the Hard Rock Hotel, which was the Horizon, which previously was the Harrah Tahoe, where the King performed. And this is, so we went up, and these photographs are from Tahoe when he performed there. And he actually played Reno. A lot of people don't know that. Elvis played Reno one time in November of 1976. And I still lived in Michigan at that point, but he did. Elvis played Reno. And I wonder if this video works. I guess it does. Okay, cool. So we're not going to pull up my actual YouTube channel, but this is a video embedded in my PowerPoint presentation. It looks like it's working. So this, of course, is one of Elvis's Cadillacs. He had lots of them, and this one was given to him by his dad, Vernon. And this was Elvis's #1 Cadillac. He drove it for a couple months, and then he gave it away to his karate instructor. And that's at the National Automobile Museum. Another connection to, oops, hold on, I'm going to go to the next one here. All right, cool. Okay, and then I due to my interest in the trains and railroads in the Virginia and Truckee, I thought, well, I know there's some cool physical evidence of the Virginia and Truckee between Carson City and Reno. A lot of course, the V&T has been reconstructed between Carson City or outside of Carson City up to Virginia City, but they used to run between Carson City and Reno, and there's some great physical evidence. And so I went and showed all that to our viewers. This is actually in Washoe Canyon, which is near Washoe City. And this photograph I did, I believe, in 2007 when I hiked back in there. And at that point, there's old trestles and such still back in that canyon. And I found a photograph that was taken at this exact location. So here's the ghost train barreling through in probably 1940 something. And then unfortunately, remember when there was a fire here a couple of years ago in the dead of winter? There was a fire in January, so it came through this area and burned all this down. So all the wooden, you can still see the stone abutments, but all this trestle work unfortunately was burned up in that fire. But I did photograph it all at that point just for saving it. Can you just imagine those old trains barreling through here between Carson and Reno? Oh my God. Okay, here's another. See if these videos work. So I've got a drone, and I've been using drone footage. That also helps to illustrate stories. This is the old railroad, Virginia and Truckee railroad bed going through Washoe Valley. And if you look off to the side of the road at the right place, you can see the old railroad bed head off into the distance. So that was the V&T railroad bed. You can see it's just a tad elevated to keep it dry. So I love that kind of thing. We'll see if I can get out of this video here. Boop, 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 doo, doo, doo. Here we go. All right. And this is in Carson City, just when the train left the Carson Depot, it used to go right up the center of Washington Street in Carson City. So it's all paved over now. Back then it was dirt, but can you just imagine the old Virginia and Truckee leaving the depot and going right up the middle of Washington Street in Carson. And this is just outside of Carson City, climbing the grade, the Lakeview grade, which would bring the train from Carson into the Washoe Valley and then ultimately to Reno. So this is the old railroad bed. They dug that out in 1872. Crazy. Oh, there's me walking again. Okay, so whew, that worked. And then this again is the crossing of the Virginia and Truckee. This was where the bridge was located, and you could just see the abutments behind me. And we are moving right along. Everybody still hanging out with me? We're doing well here. Looks like we're good on time. Let's go look at some old famous graves. I I've always been interested in boneyards. Whenever I travel somewhere and I see an old boneyard, I usually walk through. It's just such a connection to the people that came before. And we've got a really cool cemetery up a mountain view. And you see, I got all dressed up for this episode. We're in my Bullet Distilling t-shirt, but I'm all smiles because we're going to go through the cemetery here and find some folks. So these are some of the people that are up there. Dawn Wells was Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island, and she passed away, unfortunately, due to COVID complications in 2020, and she's up there at Mountain View. This is the Smith family plot, the Smith family of Herold's Club fame. They founded and operated Herold's Club for 50 years or so. And that's on the top, the light one on the very, towards the top, the big one is Pappy Smith. And to the lower left, the big brown one on the left side is his wife, Iola. Also there are Herold Smith Sr., the Harold Smith Jr., their wives and such. So that's the little Smith family plot up there at Mountain View. I did a whole episode on this. This is C.C. Pounding, who founded the Poundings Edition in Reno, where I used to live, right on the Truckee River, just to the west of downtown. C.C. Pounding's up there. Pat McCarran, we all know the McCarran name for our ring road, and the airport in Las Vegas used to be McCarran International Airport. So he was a glorious senator for us until 1954 when he passed away, and he's up there. This is John Sparks. We all know the name of Sparks because of Sparks, Nevada. John Sparks was a governor, and he's up there. This is Vale Pittman. He was one of our governors. I don't know what's going on with the paint here. It looks like someone started painting it brown and gave up. So I don't know what the dealio is there. This is another governor, Frederick Balzar. We can thank this gentleman for signing the bill into law that legalized gaming in the state of Nevada in 1931. And Charlie Mapes is up there from the Mapes Hotel fame, of course. His family, the Becks, you might remember the name Jessie Beck. Her name was on the Riverside Hotel. She owned that for a while, and Fred Beck owned a concession at Herold's Club. They are up there. And then I end every historic episode with a craft beer. That was just, I thought, well, I love history, but I also love studying craft beer. So, and I'm a certified Cicerone. It's the equivalent of a beer sommelier. It took about 6 months to study to sit for this exam, and I'm only one of 11 Cicerones in the state of Nevada. So I love me my beer and love talking about it, and so I'll end every episode at a local watering hole and talk about the beer that they have down there. And this particular one is, I believe, Wonder Ale Works, which is since closed. But at least I got to do it there before they did. Then and now is this is Neil Cobb, our esteemed Neil Cobb, did a couple of books, Reno Then and Now, and I didn't want to use the material that he did, but I found different scenes, historical photographs, and that I went to the same location that the photographer took that old historic photo and took the same shot today. So this is on 2nd Street, and this is what that same scene looks like today. I did a whole episode on these. This is 2nd Street again from another angle looking west. Look at those cars, they're so fantastic. And that's the same scene today in the rain. And this is the building on the right, which I'm actually working on an episode right now to get inside that building to do some filming. I'm probably going to find out about it today. And there's the same scene today. Things sure change. Woo-wee. This was Arlington. This is about to cross the Arlington Bridge. You can see the El Cortez Hotel in the background. and there's a standard gas station. This is the same scene today. The horses are long gone. This is the Crest Theater on the corner of 2nd and Sierra, and this was then the Money Tree back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then it was Eddie's Fabulous 50s, and it's currently looking for a new purpose right now. This corner, and of course our train depot, the Virginia and Truckee used to pull up right in front of this building. The tracks were taken up long ago, but that's the same scene again in the rain. And this is an old firehouse. This is off 4th Street, near what's it near? Well, it's I forget. Oh no, Pigeon Head Brewing. Pigeon Head Brewing is just on the other side of this old building, and there's actually another brewery that moved in here on the ground floor of the old fire station called Sleeve Brewing. So if you ever buy this, go have a craft beer and say hi to the fine folks at Sleeve Brewing. Nice beer down there. I found this old post. I have a huge collection of digital postcards and old photographs that I keep over. I've kept over the years, and this was the IOOF building. Was this? Let's see. Was this the IOOF building? Yes, it was. And this is it today. And there was a huge fire here in the 1930s or 1940s, and they had to take off the top 2 floors. You see, it was a lot taller, but the big stone columns on the bottom, those are still here today. They're just kind of in there. And then this was Commercial Row, up by the railroad tracks before the train trench. And this is the same scene today. That's changed a whole lot. And another then and now I did was the 97 flood. During the 97 flood, I actually took my camera down there and photographed several scenes. And I was able to go back to the same scenes this summer and show what they look like today. So water level's a lot lower now. You can see the tops of the Riverwalk structures there. And there's the old Mapes in the background and the Riverwalk on the right. Man, if you were here, that was a nasty old flood. 1997, there's the same scene today. Woo, cool. And then this is looking down Sierra Street from the federal court building. And there's the same scene today. So hopefully we don't have another flood like that in a long time. There's the Riverside, same scene today. And this was along Winter Street. This is Riverside Drive on the right. It became Riverside River for the duration of the flood. And there's the same scene today. All right, I picked up this hitchhiker a couple of months ago. This guy, this Mr. Neil Cobb. Neil had a great story that he told me years ago about a painting that his mom did. His mom Mildred was a fantastic portrait painter, and she had painted this painting. And there's a great story that went along with it. That's Neil's mom on the left. That's Mildred, and in a nutshell, this dude, Eddie Starr, called out Mildred and says, yeah, she's not really an artist because she works from photographs to create her paintings. And she thought that was nuts. And so she went ahead and painted this awesome painting. This is large. This is like 4 by 5 feet, and painted this in the window of Modern Photo, which was their family business. And she did this in layers. And Neil tells the whole story in this episode. So go look for the video called The Skeleton Lady of Reno, and Neil will tell you the whole story. And she's all woman, ladies and gentlemen. She's all there. I didn't want to violate any YouTube policies, and I didn't want to have my channel banned or anything like that because of nudity or anything like that. So we strategically placed this postcard held up by a thread to keep YouTube away from, keep their attention away from me. And I probably would have been okay showing the whole thing, because I dug into their policies, and they said, you know, about nudity, but they said if it's art and it's for educational purposes, it's probably all right. I didn't want to take the chance, so we had to just fly under the radar there as best I could. I took a vacation up to Idaho over the summer, and I remember that Bill Harrah was buried in Idaho, and Haley, Idaho. So we found the old boneyard and drove around, and without the help of any guide or anything like that, we just I was able to stumble upon the final resting place of Bill Harrah, and I did a little video clip of that in anticipation of, hey, maybe one day I'll do a video on Bill Harrah, which I actually did several months later. So if you go to my Bill Harrah story video, at the end, I'll close it out here at his final resting place. This was for the Bill Harrah episode. I went up to the top of the El Dorado parking garage to film some segments. And if you've never been up there, go to the top of the El Dorado parking garage. You just wind your way all the way up 9, 10, 11 floors, however many, and then it opens up, and you're in the middle of all of our skyscrapers. It's pretty amazing. Go check that out. Bill Harrah was such an interesting cat, and he had such an impact and influence on not only modern gaming, but on Reno itself. And as many of you know, he had a huge car collection. He was more of a car guy than he was a casino guy. And at the height of his collection, he had 1,400 classic automobiles. 1,400 classic cars. And I illustrate that, how many that is in the video. You go to the video and check it out. I drove up to Harrah's Tahoe to film a segment in the rain. It was actually raining then. That was fun. And of course, you have to go to the National Automobile Museum. There are about 250 cars from the original collection have been preserved. Thankfully, there's something. And that's also where that Elvis car is. I did an episode on the huge explosion that happened in Reno in 1957. I heard that there was an explosion several years ago, but I was never exactly sure where it was. And so I decided to do an episode on this crazy gas explosion and find out exactly where it was and kind of illustrate that. And this is how I did it. I found these old photographs. This is the corner of First and Sierra, I believe. First and Sierra, yeah. So I had this historic photograph. I sent my drone up to get to that same place where the photographer took that in 1957, and I mashed them together. So it was really illustrative of exactly where this disaster happened. And incidentally, this is the very last photograph that my drone took, because after this, I accidentally flew it into a wall up there and it came crashing down in pieces. So I had to go buy another one, but that happens. And so I did several mashups just to illustrate where this was. And you can see the familiar building on the left, the old colonial apartment building. And this is the same scene today. And then I mashed the two together. It's really quite poignant. I really enjoyed doing these. This is the Century Theater downtown. That's where that was the location of this. Antonio's. There's the scene looking down Sierra Street. Right up the theater building, of course. So this was in the same location. You can kind of triangulate and line things up. Pretty fun to do. One person was killed and 40 some people were injured in this. This is one of the biggest disasters in our city's history. But it all got rebuilt, and actually the buildings that replaced all the buildings that blew up, they're all gone now too. So the buildings that are here are replacements of replacements. Such is progress. That's Pisano's Pizza right there in the center, if you can see it. And Antonio's is where Patterson's menswear was back then. All right, did another episode on the giant arrow. Another thing I heard that there was one of our giant airmail arrows in Reno, but I didn't know where it was. So I did the research and found out how to get there, and hiked up there to find the giant airmail arrow. This is part of a system across the country that would guide airmail pilots across the country to one beacon to a next. There were actually on these concrete arrows, there was a beacon on the top of this tower, and then there was a little shed on the back for to generate power. And these were all across the country. And to get there, you have to follow the steamboat ditch. And there's a trail that goes next to the steamboat ditch. I didn't know anything about the steamboat ditch. While I was up there filming my trek to get up to the airmail arrow, I looked up on Google on my phone about the steamboat ditch. The steamboat ditch is really old. It was built in the 1870s. But a Chinese firm out of San Francisco was hired to do this. And it runs for like 34 miles or so up beyond Verdi and down to Steamboat. This was dug by hand in the 1870s. I had no idea it was so old. So that was an extra added thing that I put into that video. And here's me and my buddy Scott. We're going to head up for our next video, which was on the Great Summit Tunnel of the Sierra Nevada that was dug out for the first transcontinental railroad. And if you've ever been up here by the old Donner Summit, you've seen this old tunnel. But it's a fascinating history. It's 1,600 feet long, and not a single power tool was used to dig this tunnel. It was all dug by hand and explosives by the railroad workers. 1,600 feet, that's the length of 3 Washington monuments through solid granite. It's just impossible to think about. How did they do this? I was here several years ago, and this whole entrance was covered with graffiti, all different colors and artwork, and oh brother. And at some point between then and now, someone's come in and painted over all of it. So that was great to see. And during my video, I kind of demonstrated how they blasted through 1,600 feet of solid granite. And how they did it was one guy would hold this bit, and 2 guys with sledgehammers would pound on the bit. You know, bam, bam, pound. They would turn the bit a little bit, bam, bam, hit it again, turn the bit, bam, bam. And after about an hour or 2, they were able to get a hole deep enough to put in the explosives. So, and then they would blow it up and run like hell, and another crew would come in and clean up the debris. But I wanted to show you this photograph to show you how authentic my props are. My bit is actually a cut up dowel that from my mom's closet. You hung clothes on those long poles, so I cut that up. That made a bit. I don't have a sledgehammer, so I used this kindling maul that I keep by my wood pile. I got the actual oil lamp on Amazon for $10, and it's held up by a microphone stand. So I spared no expense. Oh boy! And as they worked on 4 phases to dig out this tunnel number 6 of the Transcontinental Railroad. This was the shaft in the center that they dropped down, and so guys in the center were working towards the exits, and the guys on the exits were working towards the center. So they could work on 4 phases. So that when I went to see this shaft several years ago, there was no development. No one knew it was there. When I went up this summer, there's interpretive signs, and there's a paved pathway up there. This is right up by all the ski resorts up there. So that was kind of fun to show. And then another episode that I did was on the Pyramid Lake War. A lot of people weren't aware that we had a war in Nevada, let alone in northern Nevada, but we did. It was called the Battles of Pyramid Lake. And to research this, I went to get this book out of the library. This is the history of Nevada. This was put together in 1881. This is a fabulous resource. And In that book is 7 or 8 pages of the history of the Pyramid Lake War that was done 20 years after the event. And the guys that put that book together, 1881, found some of the Native Americans that were involved, and some of the guys, the white guys and the miners and such that took them on, and we're able to get their firsthand accounts, so that it's really accurate. And then I read about the description of where the conflict took place, and I went to Google Maps, and I could pretty much line up the description of the terrain with the photograph from Google Maps, and they described a half moon shape, and I found that on Google Maps, and then where the Indians showed up and how they rode up the side of the hill. It's all in the video if you want to take a look at that. This is between Wadsworth and Nixon, Nevada, Pyramid Lake. This is the battlefield area where this all happened. It's really, I never, this is off the main road, and had kind of had to hike in to see the Truckee River flowing up towards Pyramid Lake. Really enjoy this photograph. And this is where the conflict happened. And this is Pyramid Lake in the background. It was cold and windy when I did this. And in a nutshell, about 120 volunteers were assembled to go fight the native Paiutes, because there was a poor unfortunate incident with 2 Indian girls that were kidnapped. And all these volunteers, which are mostly miners and ranchers and such, they wanted to go teach those Native Americans a lesson. So they went up towards Pyramid Lake where the Indians were, and they got their butts kicked. About 70 of those volunteers were killed, and the rest retreated back and broke the news of what happened, and another regiment was formed, and they went back, and the Indians essentially left. But the whole story is in the video. Part of the story, I had to go to Lake Lahontan, which was the location of Williams Station, which was where the kidnapping took place. And I finished up the episode at Fort Churchill, which is an hour outside of Reno. If you've ever been there, it's really fascinating ruins. And this was built as a result of the Pyramid Lake War, to protect the settlers and the stagecoach operators and such from those nasty Indians. And this was only open for about 10 years, and it was abandoned. And the ruins are still there in Fort Churchill State Park. That's definitely worth a drive out if you need something to do. And I did this with my drone, so I can get some cool angles. And I did this one here. This is the second. No, this is my most recent one that I put up. We are, if you haven't heard it in the news, we're going to most likely lose this historic railroad building, which is right next to the Sparks Nugget. It's huge, and it was built in 1903. This is a machine shop that was built by the Southern Pacific. It's now the Union Pacific. The Union Pacific took over the Southern Pacific in 1996. But this huge machine shop that was part of a large complex is being threatened to come down. There used to be a huge roundhouse on the top right. You can see our machine shop that exists here today. There used to be a huge roundhouse that was built after the railroad left their main operations in Wadsworth and picked up and moved everything to Sparks. And so that was taken down in 1959, the roundhouse, and the Sparks Nugget today would be where the lower right of this photograph is. So this machine shop is the only part of that massive railroad operation that still stands, and the Union Pacific leases the land to the guy that owns this building, and they're not renewing the lease. And they're saying that the guy that owns the buildings was in violation of the lease because he sublet the building to various businesses. So I was able to get inside. I walked up there and I asked one of the guards, I said, "Hey, can I take a peek inside?" And they said, sure. So I did. And this is what it looks like inside. They just don't build buildings like this anymore. All the old rivets. It would just be such a shame to lose this. This is in the erecting shop, which is next door. This was one of the crews in the 1940s, and they had huge cranes in there that could lift these engines up in the air to be worked on. And this is the same scene today. It's now storing boats. But it's such a cavernous building, and the acoustics are interesting. And this dude that was on this little tour with me thought it might be a good concert venue, you know, if it was saved. You can see all this built in 1903. It's all still there, and hopefully it doesn't have to come down. The railroad has given the owner until the end of May to get this all cleared out. And the Sparks City Council has actually passed a resolution to try to save it or work out a deal, and I hope they do. All right, these slides are what I'm working on right now. I'm almost done with this video. This, of course, is the Reno National Bank building, which is still there. This was built in 1915 by George Wingfield. It was one of his banks. George Wingfield owned 12 banks at one point, and this is the only one that he had physically constructed. And of course, this was part of Harrah's in his later life. It was actually it was a Planet Hollywood, opened in 1994 as Planet Hollywood, and not a lot of people know this. Bruce Willis and his blues band on an elevated stage played right outside at this very corner in 1994. I remember being there to watch that. I didn't have a camera, and I look back, why didn't I bring a camera to get Bruce Willis playing? But that was in the days of film. Maybe I thought I couldn't get a good shot. I don't remember, but that did happen. And so the video I'm working on right now is on 2nd and Virginia Street. Each building on the 4 corners there has an interesting history. This is actually the old Cal Neva entrance on 2nd and Center Street, but they've finally expanded up to Virginia Street. And so here's the entrance today on 2nd and Virginia. Cal Neva was opened in 1948. I didn't know it was that old, and it's been, except for a couple little hiccups, it's been in continuous operation since 1948. Here's the old Washoe County Bank building again. I'm trying to get inside there to video what it looks like today. And there it is. That is exactly what it looks like today. It's vacant, and we're trying to get a hold of the owner, see if they can let us in. The Ramos Drugs building is that very same bank building, and across the way was known as the Byington building because a family named Byington had purchased it. And back in the day, this was actually one of the better business addresses to have in Reno. Doesn't look like anything as glorious as it used to. This is what it looks like today. But this was redesigned by Frederick de Longchamp, one of our famous Reno architects. And over the years, there were professional offices on these upper floors, you know, doctors and lawyers and insurance people, realtors, that kind of thing. And then Harrah's, I didn't know this until I started researching it. Harrah's in 1959 leased both of these upper floors and on a 40-year lease, and they had executive offices up there. Pretty cool. And here's a cool then and now photograph. This is that same corner in 2nd Virginia, and here's what it looks like today. And another then and now. I love the folks and their old threads there crossing the street. That's what it looks like today. And here's a then and now, or this is kind of a mashup. I took an old photograph of and did the new photograph of the same location and just blended it. So horses do not use our streets anymore. All right, and I'm going to wrap it up here with this is the video that's gotten the most views. I did this video on the 40-mile desert of the Immigrant Trail. I did this back in July. and it had, well, it was just regular humble number of views. And then this past November, it started taking off. And somehow the YouTube algorithm picked up on this video that I did on the 40-mile desert and started showing it to a lot of people. And this is now the video that has the highest number of views for me at 244. I think I have 240,000 views on this, 250,000 views. And these are people all across the country that watch my channel. When I started this channel, I thought, oh gosh, it's going to be super regional, you know, about Reno. So just Reno people are going to watch it. It hasn't turned out to be the case. There's people all over the country that are interested in Reno or have some prior connection or want to move here. I have the most views from Los Angeles, California. You can see where your viewers are watching from, and my number one geographical area is LA. Who knew? So and actually Reno is about 7 or 8 down. It goes like LA, Chicago, I forget, but you know, Reno's like 7 or 8 down on the list. So it's pretty interesting. The 40-mile desert, I just love this area. It's so super historic. This was like the crossing of the 40-mile desert between the Great Meadows near Lovelock, and there were 2 different routes. You could take the Truckee River route, end up in Wadsworth, or the Carson River route and end up near what's now Fallon. On those 40 miles, this was the most dreaded crossing. This is the most dreaded part of the whole immigrant trail from Missouri to California. Almost every immigrant diary said that it was. Between the Great Meadows and either the Truckee River or the Carson River was 40 miles of just nothing. Sand, no water, no drinkable water, no grass for their stock. It was, and it was hot. It was just a miserable experience. Out there, you can see today, you can see tracks of the wagons. A lot of people don't know that, but they are there. And you know that they're old in the original thing because they just dead end into the sage up there, and they're gone. So that they're like these ghost trails. Well, someone commented on this video, oh, those are modern. Those are in the Black Rock Desert. Those trails are from people driving out to Burning Man. I had to reply, I'm sorry, you're about 100 miles off. And no, these are not modern. These are from the Great Immigration. And so we took our RV out. I went out once on my motorcycle to do some filming, and then the next weekend we took our RV out there and camped in the 100-degree heat. It was hot. But this is the kind of thing that's out there on the 40-mile desert. These are barrel hoops from old water casks that were discarded. They're still there. This area was strewn with abandoned wagons and log chains and guns, and people offloaded everything in a desperate move to get to water. This was a miserable crossing, and they left all kinds of stuff. And old wagons were out there for years and years, and scavengers over the past 150 years have picked everything up, except for a couple small things that you can still see. This is part of the immigrant trail out on the 40-mile desert. This was dug in by old wagon wheels and stock pushing their way through. Believe it or not, these are the remains of either oxen or horses or cattle. We're not sure. There's actually vertebrae still there, but no other discernible organic material. But it just, I mean, people were crossing in 1849, 1850, 1851, 1852. This stuff is still there. That just fascinates me. Immigrant graves. There's almost 1,000 immigrant graves out there, and you can still find them. This is what they look like. There's no reason for these rocks to be assembled in these unnatural arrangements. And I actually took a tour of the immigrant trail with one of the historians that is noted and well respected for their research, and they're the ones that showed me all this. So this is the real deal. Another immigrant grave. All right. That's what I'm doing, guys. That's that's my YouTube channel. That's my angle. I just want to share historic things. A lot of people I meet say, "Oh, I love history. I love historic stuff," but most people don't have the time or the wherewithal or the resources to properly learn about things. So I will do the hard work for you. All I just ask is you tune in and maybe please subscribe, and that way you'll know when new content is uploaded. So that's all I got. I sure appreciate you joining me. And I'm wrapping up here like right at 1 o'clock. That's a solid hour of fun and entertainment. How did I do?
Steve, that was great.
Oh, cool.
No, it was, I knew, why don't you tell everybody how many episodes did you say? 40, what was it
I'm on
that you're at right now?
42 or 43, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
how many followers do you have so far on your YouTube
almost
channel?
3,000, almost 3,000.
Okay.
I started this in March of 2023, and I got to 1,000 subscribers, which is the magic number which monetizes your video. So I do get a small income from what I'm doing,
Okay.
which is kind of cool. Because one day when I retire, it'll be nice to have a little side income, So it's kind of one of my angles was to start this YouTube channel now, and then when I retire one day, that I'll have something going on, something to do. So yeah, I have 2,900, almost 3,000 subscribers right now.
Okay. You talked about so many great topics. It was fascinating. I was going to mention you had talked about the 40-mile desert, and people actually mined for metals, and to gather, like you said, the wagons and the materials. They were leaving pianos and household items. It was at least until through the 1920s that they were pulling metals out of the 40-mile desert.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because so much was left behind, and the descriptions talk about, just seeing dead animals, carcasses lining the route. So it's
yeah. And Mark Twain came through years later in a stage on his way out to Carson City when he moved out here to be with his brother, and he wrote of the same thing, that it was one prodigious graveyard, that whole 40 miles. Yeah, it was just and someone else mentioned that possibly during World War II there was a metal drive, and they came through, and whatever serviceable metal there was, they went out there and picked it all up for the war effort. So
I
way
would
before
believe
my
that.
time.
Because people would even, collect aluminum and cans and foils and rubber. So I could
Yeah.
totally see that happening out
Yeah.
in Fallon.
Hopefully we're not doing that anymore. I did make a mention in that video to, if you find stuff today, please leave it there, leave it alone, so future generations can appreciate what happened out there. So hopefully people
Oh,
do that.
absolutely. You need that for, to document what happened through its
Yeah.
time. So we have a couple questions here for you. Let's see. Oh, and anybody who's still watching it, we have Steve's YouTube channel listed on the screen, but also in the chat as well. But there's a question: does Steve know anything about the Elvis memorabilia and guns that used to be on display at Sierra Sid's in Sparks?
I went out to Sierra Sid's because I knew that there was a collection of firearms that they had from not only Elvis but John Wayne. So I went down there and I asked to see that collection, and the gal behind the bar said, "I'm sorry, that all got sold off during the pandemic." So yeah, it got sold off to the Four Winds, just like the Herold's Club gun collection did.
Okay.
So who bought them, or I don't know, but yeah, unfortunately that's no longer there.
Okay. We've got somebody else saying, what a marvelous presentation. Thank you, Steve. And I love the mashup historic present day photos. And I do too. I really, I know I saw a few, especially for the gas explosion, because that's always been an interesting part of the history. kind of where it is. And so I remember seeing a few of the pictures you had posted on Facebook, and I just love that, because it really, you're like, oh, you're stepping into the past and seeing it in the present as well. So it was very impressive. Let's see, we had a lot of great people saying great presentation. There, Neil, do you have a question or comment you want to bring up for this?
Well, there's just a whole bunch of things that I could have helped him with and get even more detail. Like before, it was the Club Calneva, it was the Club Fortune and so on. But to go ahead and merge in and go half and half is a very creative way of showing you now and then. And I just sat here and enjoyed this. I enjoyed the program, period. But anytime that he ever wants to borrow any of my stuff, or like on the inside of the Sparks foundry, and that was a foundry. We've got during World War II, just a kid and an old man pouring molten steel and all kinds of things going on. They were casting small, like hand car wheels and stuff there. But then there's a whole series with the Mexicans that were here that took the place of the guys that were out fighting for us. And they were brought in, and they were running the railroad during World War II. And they would rotate them, and they did a fantastic job. So there's photos of them, photos of the insides of the cars. And it just, I got a lot of stuff. You got to come over and just take a look, and it'll probably wet your whistle.
Well, we'll work together at some point again, Neil, for sure.
Well, I am
Well,
so proud of you. If anybody's going to hand the baton to the next guy that's really into history, it's you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
well, and another little note, because you different stories kept going back to Harrah, and that's where Harrah's collection was housed at one point too. Was in that building, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Other people have mentioned that. I don't believe so. I think it was the building across the railroad tracks. I know it was in the building across the railroad tracks because I went there and saw the old collection in '86. But some people have said that for a time that some old cars were stored in that machine shop. I don't have any concrete evidence, but some people have mentioned that as well.
When you showed Second and Virginia Street and the old building, the Byington building, not only did the Harrahs utilize the upper part of it to a degree, and that's where our old Telephona was at the same time too. I got into that building. It's all cut up there. But on the very top, they had a huge a neon sign that was outlined the United States, and it had all points go to Reno, and it pointed right across the street to the Harrah's Club. So it was a monster sign that stood right up on the top of that building.
It's hard to see, but one of the photographs I had in this presentation of the building, that neon sign that you're talking about is there, but it's kind of hard to see because it's just the skeleton of it, and it wasn't at night when it was lit up. But yeah, I've seen photographs of that. That would have been impressive.
Yeah, it was a fancy. They showed them coming from different points of the nation, coming right to Reno, and then the other part going right to Harrah's Club.
Yes, indeed.
Do you know, I had a question. You had went to Idaho to look at Harrah's grave. Do we know why did he have family or retired there? I just was curious if you knew.
He loved the area. That was his getaway. He actually owned a lodge up there that he would go fishing and hunting, and it was Idaho was his refuge. He just loved it up there so much that's where he wanted to. That's his final resting place. That was his wish. For those that don't know, his funeral was held at St. John's Presbyterian on Plum Lane. And John Denver, at the height of his fame in 1978, sang at the funeral, which is pretty amazing. I mean, he was at the height of his powers when he was doing that. So pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very cool. So may I ask, what do you hoping is like the next number for followers, or you know, are you trying to set a goal that you want to hit 100 videos, or I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I don't have a solid plan, Sherry. I didn't think I'd have as many as I do now this soon. So it's just a testament that people are kind of digging what they're learning on this channel. Hey, if I can get to 100,000 views, I think that would be just super cool. That would take several years to do, but hey, I'll have nothing but time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was amazing, and I'm interested in the fact you talked about always ending it with hitting different breweries, and so how did you get into wanting to what was the term that you called yourself?
A Cicerone, certified Cicerone. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a licensing body. You know, kind of like the wine has the sommelier program,
Yeah.
and you can be a master sommelier. I'm not a master Cicerone or anything like that, but I'm a
Okay.
certified. So it's a program that you go through. You study for several months, and then you sit for the exam. I started homebrewing beer in 1992,
Okay.
32 years ago now. Uh, I discovered the Reno home brewer back then, and I've brewed beer ever since. And it's such an ancient craft. You know, the Egyptians started doing this, you know, with grain, and they learned about fermentation and such, and we're still doing the same thing today. And one of the things that I pointed out in one of my closing video closings is, do you know who's responsible for people to be able to legally homebrew beer at home? It's Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, towards the end of his term, signed into law that the average Joe could homebrew up to 100 gallons of beer at home legally. So thanks, Jimmy Carter.
That's cool.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Very
it's
cool.
true.
Yeah. Well, this was just a great program. Thank you so much for, you know, being our guest speaker today. And, you know, and I've known you for a long time, and as well as you helped me kind of organize the collection and the Herold's Club collection when we were kind of doing an inventory here at the Historical Society, and then also you're a musician, so you're always busy. So
I got stuff going on. Oh, absolutely. But
yeah,
yeah, it's
absolutely.
great. Thanks for having me. I sure appreciate the opportunity to get up on my soapbox and talk about what I'm doing. So anybody out there, just you can scan that little QR code. It takes you right to my page, or you can just go to YouTube and search for the Reno You Know. And also, you can watch YouTube on your TV. If you've got if you got Apple TV or whatnot, you can see my channel and other channels, of course, on the big screen. So that's I actually, more people. My audience skews older men. There's some ladies, there's some teenagers, but it's mostly older guys that are, you know, my age bracket, that are interested in this kind of thing. And my statistics, my analytics say that about 60% of those guys are watching on TV. So
Okay.
kind of interesting. Now you can see YouTube on your iPhone, on an iPad, on your home computer, but you can see it on TV now. So that's simply more convenient for a lot of people.
It is, and you can even, then you're watching a video, you can make it then go right to your TV too, you know, right from your phone. So that's an interesting thing as well. So
No doubt, yeah.
This program is
mirror,
going.
I think.
This program is going directly to Facebook and to YouTube. The whole thing that we just completed,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
which I want
Yeah.
to
So once it's done,
yeah,
they edit it, and then it gets put onto their the Washoe County Library's YouTube channel, and we then have a link on our website so people can visit it a couple different ways. So that's why we're excited about it, that we can share these great talks to anybody. So
Cool.
but
Cool. I'm
thank
glad to
you
be a
so
part
much,
of it.
guys. Yeah, this is great. So thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you, Steve, of course, Neil Cobb, and the Washoe County Library, as always, with John, and today with Jennifer. So thank you again, and let me send it back to Jennifer.
All right. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Steve Ellison, Sherry Hayes Zorn, and Neil Cobb with the Nevada Historical Society, and John, our Washoe County Library System tech wizard, for making this event possible today. Don't forget to sign up for the next live event with the Nevada Historical Society on Thursday, February 15th at 12 p.m. The topic will be about historic forensic engineering of buildings in Northern Nevada, presented by Paul Ferrari, PE. To sign up, please visit events.washoecountylibrary.us. What's coming up? Visit us at events.washoecountylibrary.us, where you can also access and download our Virtual Explorer, a publication listing all virtual events and resources. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.